It began with hunger. Not the kind that growls in your stomach for a day, but the kind that stays in your bones. The kind that makes you dream of food even when you sleep. The kind that drives you to fight your own kind when the hunt fails. We had hunted since the first dawn. We knew the rhythm of chase and kill, the taste of blood and dust in our mouths. But there was never enough. That day, we had chased the great horned beast Skadisi. Horned beast for hours, through the long grass, over stones that cut our feet. The sun fell, and still we followed. Our arms were weak, our breath ragged, but something inside me would not stop. When it finally stumbled, we fell upon it like the dying on water. We tore at it with stone and bone, our hands slick with its life. When it stopped moving, we stood over it, panting. The world was silent, but for the sound of our hearts. Then came the smell, sweet, heavy, warm. The smell that said, "You will live another day." I remember the others, their faces wild, their teeth red. Each of us guarded our piece of the kill. No one looked at another. No one spoke. We were like beasts ourselves, afraid that if we blinked, someone would take from us. When the light began to fade, I saw one of the smaller ones, a boy, barely strong enough to throw a stone, crouching near the carcass. He reached for a scrap left behind. Another hunter snarled and kicked him away. The boy fell. He didn't fight. He just lay there, looking at the meat with eyes that had already given up. Something in me moved. I tore a piece from my share, not much, just enough to fill a mouth, and threw it to him. He looked at it, then at me, unsure. He took it, ate it fast, didn't look up again. That night, the others laughed at me, said I was a fool, said if I was going to waste food, I might as well feed the sky. But as I watched the boy sleep, belly full for the first time in many nights, I felt something strange. Not pride, not strength, but peace. When morning came, he followed me to the hunt again. When I stumbled, he helped me up. When I threw my spear, he handed me another. We hunted as two, and when we brought the next kill back, I gave him his share before taking mine. The others watched, curious but silent. Then, one by one, they began to do the same. It happened slow, like dawn. A piece of meat shared became two, then three. A kill no longer ended in growls and blood between brothers. It ended in laughter, in warmth, in something that felt new, something that made the cold night less sharp. We didn't have a word for it then. Now, I think that was the moment when the hunt stopped being survival and became something else. Something that tied us together more than fear ever had. That night, I sat by the fire and watched the others eat. I noticed how they looked at one another, not as rivals, but as people. The old one with the bad leg was given a share. The mother, who could no longer run, was handed a bone heavy with fat. The boy, my boy, though not of my blood, smiled at me from across the flames. The world felt different. The fire seemed warmer. The cold seemed smaller. I thought to myself, maybe it is not the kill that keeps us alive, but the sharing. Before we learned to share, every day was a battle, not only against the beasts, but against one another. The world was harsh, and it made us harsh. The sun burned, the cold bit, and hunger ruled everything. We did not yet know mercy. The ground did not give it, so neither did we. When we hunted, it was each for himself. We went out in groups, yes, but only because one alone was too weak to face the great beasts. We moved together only until the kill fell. Then we became enemies. The strongest ate first. The fastest stole what they could. the slow, the weak, the old. They waited, hoping the bones would still have marrow left. Sometimes they starved. Sometimes they were the next meal. I had seen it, not often spoken of, but understood. A small one gone missing, and no one asked why. The ground was cold, and hunger was older than kindness. We were not cruel. We were empty. We did not think of us. There was only me. The hunt was everything. To miss a strike meant death. To share meant weakness. Even within the same cave, we slept apart, clutching our food like beasts guarding a kill. We did not look each other in the eye. We feared what we saw there, the same hunger, the same desperation. We had no words for family. We had only the living and the dying. When a child was born, it was a burden. When one died, it was silence. The mothers did not weep. The men did not speak. There was no time for grief. The beast did not wait for sorrow. We did not know why some of us grew old and others did not. We only knew that the ground took them and the rest of us kept walking. The world was filled with eyes, not human, but watching. Beasts in the tall grass, birds in the sky, insects crawling through the bones of the dead. Everything was alive, and everything wanted to eat. We believed the night was a hunter too. When it fell, we ran to caves or trees. The dark swallowed those who were too far behind. We learned to listen for silence, the kind that comes before danger. The earth gave us little, roots that made the stomach twist, berries that lied with sweetness then burned the throat. The rivers gave fish, but the fish were quick, and the water cold enough to steal breath. The beasts gave meat, but only if we could take it from them. And often, they took us instead. We did not understand the sky or the seasons, but we watched. The old ones knew when the herds would move, when the fruit would ripen. They could smell the coming rain before the clouds gathered. We lived by memory, not thought, but rhythm. Days shaped by sun, nights shaped by hunger. If one among us could not hunt, they did not last. Sometimes, I think we were closer to the beast then. We walked on two legs, yes, and used stone, but our hearts were the same, ruled by the hunger that never ended. We did not plan. We did not dream. We did not yet know what it meant to care for another without reason. When the hunt ended and the blood cooled, we each tore what we could and fled before the others turned on us. I remember the sound, teeth on bone, grunts in the cold, the sharp crack of stone when two struck at once. We called that living. The women and children waited far from the kill site, hiding in the trees. They would come when the fighting was done. What remained, scraps, organs, small pieces torn from the belly, those were theirs. They learned to eat quickly, to hide what they found. That was life before sharing. And yet, even in those hard days, something inside us was waiting. Something we did not yet understand. When the wind howled through the cave and the small ones huddled close, we let them. Their warmth was not food, but it was life. When a hunter fell in the chase, we mourned not with tears but with silence. We carried his spear for a time, not because it was useful, but because leaving it behind felt wrong. We did not call it love. We did not call it duty. But it was there, a small thing, quiet, sleeping inside us. Maybe it was the same thing that makes beasts protect their young. Or maybe it was the beginning of something greater. We did not yet have words for belonging, but I remember the first time I felt it. It was after a long hunt, when the cold had bitten deep. We had killed nothing for many days. One of the old women, her hair white as bone, sat near the cave wall shaking. No one spoke to her. she had not eaten. When night came, I had a strip of dried meat left. Small, thin, hardly enough for one mouth. I placed it beside her and walked away. She did not speak, but when I woke, she was alive. And in front of me, she had left a bundle of dried grass and stones for striking. She had given me fire. That was the first trade. It was not for survival. It was for something else, something that made the night less cruel. We did not yet call it family, but it had begun. When I think back now, I see how small it was. One piece of meat, one handful of grass. But from that small thing, everything changed. The next day, another shared, then another. And slowly, we stopped being alone. It was not a rule, it was not spoken. But it began to happen, again and again. Each hunt brought the same choice. Take and flee, or stay and give. And each time one of us shared, something unseen grew stronger between us. At first, it was only with those we trusted, a brother, a mate, a child. But hunger has a way of testing trust. One morning, after a long cold night, a man named Hura brought down a great boar. The beast screamed as he struck it. It thrashed and bled, and when it fell still, the air filled with the smell of life. We surrounded it fast, our hearts wild. Every man for himself. That was the law we knew. But Hura stood back. His hands were shaking, his eyes hollow from hunger, yet he did not tear the first bite. He looked at me, then at the others, and said nothing. He simply knelt, cut a piece from the flank, and threw it toward the weakest among us, a small woman whose leg had been broken in a fall days before. No one moved. We waited for her to grab it, for someone to strike her, for Hura to take it back. But he did none of those things. He only said, "She needs it." That was all. And something in those words changed the air. The others hesitated, then began to do the same. Small pieces, torn and given. No one took more than their share. No one fought. The silence that followed was not fear, it was peace. When the meat was gone, we sat around what was left of the carcass, not apart, but close. The smell of blood was still in our noses, but for once, it did not make us fight. It made us remember we were alive, together. That night, as the fire burned low, we gathered again. The woman with the broken leg sat among us, chewing slowly. Her eyes glowed in the light. For the first time, I saw her smile. And Hura, he smiled back. Something passed between them, not hunger, not strength, something new. I did not understand it then, but I saw it. When the next hunt came, we hunted together differently. We spoke before we struck. We shouted to warn each other. We shared the chase, the danger, the kill. It made us stronger, not just in numbers, but in will. The beast feared us more because we moved like one. When one was hurt, another stayed behind. When one fell, another carried his spear. When one bled, another tore cloth to stop it. No one had taught us to do this. No spirit had whispered it. It was born from the simple act of giving. I began to see a pattern. When one ate alone, his eyes stayed wild, his sleep restless. When one ate with others, his breathing slowed, his face softened, he laughed more. When we shared, the fire seemed brighter. When we didn't, it felt smaller. I began to think that maybe food had more power than we knew. It was not only for the body, it was for the space between bodies, the invisible thread that pulled us closer. One day, I watched a mother feed her child. The small one could barely hold the meat, and most of it fell to the ground. She laughed, tore another piece, and fed him again. Then she turned to me, tore one more piece, and handed it over. I was not her kin, yet she fed me. It made me feel something strange, not just full, but needed. The others began to bring pieces back for those who stayed in the caves, the old, the weak, the small. They began to save bones to crack later, to share the marrow. It made the caves smell of warmth and smoke and life. Soon, when the hunts were poor, no one starved alone. We learned to divide what little there was, and somehow it lasted longer. The fire became the center of this, the place where sharing happened. We gathered around it as though it were the heart of us all. The smoke rose into the night, and the light flickered on our faces, and I thought, maybe this is what it means to belong. I began to notice that the young ones learned faster when they were fed by others. They watched the hunters closely, copied their movements, mimicked their throws. They listened. Before, they had wandered apart. Now they stayed near the fire, near us. They began to play with stones and sticks, pretending to hunt, pretending to share. They were learning without knowing. And that was when I understood. Sharing did more than keep us alive. It made us think beyond ourselves. It made us imagine others. When we ate together, we spoke more. We began to name things, the parts of the animal, the shapes of the land, the faces of the stars above us. Words began to form, small, rough, but alive. Food made language. Language made memory. And memory made us something new. Sometimes, when I watched the firelight on their faces, I wondered if we had changed more than we knew. When one of us was missing, we noticed. When one was gone, we mourned. Not for the loss of a hunter, but for the space they left behind. I had never felt that before. I had seen death many times, but never absence. Now it hurt. And I think that hurt was proof that something larger had begun. The beasts hunted for hunger. We hunted for life. But when we began to share, we hunted for each other. The hunt was no longer just the way we survived. It became the way we connected. The giving became the bond. From that, something older than words took shape. Not pack, not tribe. Something deeper. Something that could not be broken by cold or hunger or death. Something that made us stay, even when the meat was gone. We did not yet know the name for it. But now, I think the word was family. Now I am old, and I no longer run with the hunt. My legs are stiff, my hands heavy. I sit by the fire, watching the young ones chase shadows against the cave wall, their laughter soft and bright. The hunters still go out at dawn, their spears shining in the cold light. When they return, they do what we once did not. They share. They lay the kill in the middle of the fire circle. No one speaks until all are gathered. The oldest cuts first, and then each takes their turn. Even those who did not hunt eat. Even I. Every time I lift that meat to my mouth, I remember the world before. The world of teeth and silence, when every man ate alone, when hunger made us wild and the cold made us cruel. That world is gone now. The fire burns in its place, and the circle has become something more than safety. It has become meaning. I see it in the faces of the children. The way they wait to be fed not just by their mothers, but by anyone who holds the food. They do not know the word mine. They only know ours. It did not happen all at once. Change never does. At first, sharing made us strong because it meant survival. No one starved. No one faced the cold alone. But later, it made us human. It gave us something the beasts do not have. Memory not of hunger, but of kindness. When I close my eyes, I can still see Hura, his hands trembling as he gave away his first piece of meat. That one act grew into everything we are now. Because the moment one of us gave without losing, we learned a truth the world had hidden. Life is not only kept by taking, but by giving. The dark forests are still there. The beasts still hunt. The cold still comes. But the fear has changed. It no longer lives inside us the same way. Now when one of us is hurt, the others gather close. When one of us dies, the fire burns through the night. When one of us is born, the circle tightens, and hands reach out to hold the new life near the warmth. We have become more than hunters. We are keepers of one another. Sometimes, as the fire crackles, I look at the young faces around me and wonder if they know what this means. They have never felt the kind of hunger that makes a man see his brother as prey. They think the fire has always been ours, that the circle has always been full. But I remember the first nights, when we sat far apart guarding our food, afraid even of the ones beside us. I remember the cold silence, the sound of chewing, the way no one spoke until it was over. And I remember the night that ended it, the first time we ate together, the first time the world felt bigger than one stomach. That was the night we became something more. We became we. I do not think we knew then what we had begun, but it has carried us through every winter since. The children who sit by this fire will one day hunt, and they too will share, and their children after them, and their children's children. Maybe one day, long after I'm gone, they will build something greater than fire circles, something that keeps them together even when the hunt ends. Because the truth does not change. Hunger ends when the belly is full, but loneliness ends only when the heart is shared. The beasts still hunt as we once did. They fight and tear and flee. But we learn to stay, to divide, to belong. Sometimes, when the night is quiet and the fire is low, I hear the wind outside, carrying the cries of the beast through the trees. It sounds far away now, and I think, perhaps we were never meant to be the strongest, or the fastest, or the fiercest. Perhaps we were meant to be the ones who learned that survival is not enough. The beasts survive, we remember. And in remembering, we became something greater than flesh, something bound by the act of giving. Now, when I feed the small ones, I tell them this: the kill keeps your body alive, but sharing it keeps your spirit alive. They do not yet understand, but they will. Because every time they pass a piece of meat to another hand, every time they laugh as they eat together, every time they sit close when the fire burns low, they are repeating the same act that began it all. And maybe, in time, they will understand that the first family was not made by blood. It was made by hunger, and by the moment we decided to face it together. When I die, they will burn the fire bright for me. They will eat in my name, and they will speak my story, not because I am special, but because I was there, when we first learned what it meant to belong. Before sharing, we survived. After sharing, we lived. Perhaps that is what the fire wanted to teach us all along. Not only how to eat, but how to stay. Maybe it was not the kill that mattered. Maybe it was what we did with it. And perhaps that is what it means to be human, to find warmth not only in the flame, but in the hands that pass it on.